Do what you wanna do. Do what you wanna do. Do what you wanna do. Do what you wanna do.
For those that don't know, you're about to find out Bob is a notorious music business blogger who, as soon as we got on stage, he's arguing about what side we sit on. So, we had a chat at Coachella a couple of years ago, and Bob was very well known over there. So my opening line to him was, "Why the fuck are you so pissed off?" So now we're in Ibiza. I think the question should be, "Who the fuck are you?" It should be just to introduce yourself.
I don't believe in self-promotion, which you'll have to, Google me and come to your own opinion. I mean, this is a business that's built on hype. Let me go on about that for a second. I follow Gilbert Gottfried. If you're not American, you may not know him. He's a comedian. He was the voice of Aflac, and he got fired for tweeting bad jokes after the tsunami, and Aflac is an insurance company, does most of their business in Japan. And I was just on my phone today following him. He's constantly saying where he is. That drives me crazy. We live in an era where everyone has a million options to follow, to read, whatever. And they get a million marketing messages. I feel it's a privilege if somebody's reading me, but I'm not going to alienate them. They're already reading me. They know what's going on. Say, "Oh, I'm here, I'm doing that." No, I'm not going to do that. So if you want to know anything about me, you're going to have to do research, unless you ask me specific questions, because I'm not going to sit here tell you how great I am. Certainly a lot of people think I'm a fucking asshole. So, you can come to your own conclusion.
Okay, we'll get into the theme of our conference. So what do you make about the boom boom and where we're at, the consolidation of our business?
The funniest thing is the last time I hung with you people in Coachella, you were all, they're going to ruin the business, the big place. Now we say, we all sold out. Now it's good. It's like, well, I'm not sure where it is. I mean, listening to Patrick Moxey talking about Sony, forgetting that it would play tapes for 20 years ago where Sony was the enemy. The issue is, there's a great song called Money Talks by Ray Davies by the Kinks on Preservation Act 2. And, show me a man who can live without bread, and I'll show you a man who's a liar and in debt. There's no man alive who wouldn't sell for a price, and that seems to be all of you, okay? If the price goes high enough, okay? So now your boss is Michael Rapino, Sillerman, etc. Listen, I told some of these people to sell out, but don't think when you're working for the man, you're working for them. Working for Sony Music, working for Doug Morris. You think he goes to Patrick Moxey, just do what you do? Fuck that. Give me hits. Okay? So, in terms of the boom, boom, business-wise, this flip. Somebody said earlier, it might have been Patrick, if you want to go indie now, be my guest. Okay? But we've moved past that. For me, it's more of a cultural point. And I'm here. I've been to Ibiza once before, 2010. Things evolve and stay the same at the same point, but I'm on a learning mission. I always want to learn things. And I was out with some they make a big point to me, it's WME, not William Morris. So I was with some WME agents last night, and I had lunch with some guys who were indie promoters from Ireland. And they both talked about the relationship between the DJ and the fan. I watch that branding bullshit, okay? If you talk, Irving Azoff, he's a very good friend of mine, doesn't have that job anymore. They're making $20 million a year. They got to do the branding deal. They can't leave any money on the table. Okay, but is it good for the business? Is it good for the relationship? I started by saying, I'm going to leave my reputation on the table, you decide, okay? Because you're getting all those messages. These guys were talking at lunch. They say, well, once the guy's with the jet, and once he's taking all the money, loses relationship with the audience, and they're saying they've been through the cycle a couple of times. Gary Richards, who's been mentioned a couple of times, whom I told to make a deal. That's a separate reason why I told him to make the deal. Okay, he sat there at Hard Halloween. They have a number of big things. Hard Halloween is one of them. They have Holy Ship. And he said, this is 2 years ago now, said, I've been through it a few times before in the bubble. Is this a bubble? These guys at lunch said, it was a bubble. It was a bubble, almost 10 years ago, and it's a bubble now. They say clubs in Ireland, and Ireland's got huge economic issues, it's a bubble. So is it a bubble in the States? Because everything that's going on here, and the reason everybody's here, and there's a big thing, is it finally happened in the States. And what do we know? The day it dies, we'll be the last to know. Okay? Because the way it works today is suddenly everybody talks to each other, and they don't show up. Look at Justin Bieber, if you follow the news from this week. He played the Billboard Music Awards, and he was booed. We didn't see this arc. We saw a little bit TMZ. He fucked up a little bit, but he went from hero to zero overnight. So everyone's investing their money. I think that electronic music is hip-hop, but it might not be. So when you look at the boom boom era, the most impressive thing I saw was the guy who started off, Watson, with the statistics. This is a business historically built on intimidation. You can't even get real statistics, and it's air and bullshit. Those were very impressive statistics. Most of the people in the business don't know them. So I think that's representative of where we're going. So that's my assessment right now. If you want to talk about really where we're going, that's a separate question.
When do you turn the knife on us?
Can you say that one more time?
I said, when do you turn the knife on us?
I'm not going to turn the knife on you. I mean, listen, I'm sophisticated. You're running a conference. That's a money-making enterprise. Your goals may not align with the goals of the individuals who attend here, and I don't have any problem. But everybody who came here wants to make money. When you're the audience, that's not your primary thing. Used to be we were disconnected from the audience. If you're not getting hate mail, you're nobody. Okay? Every day people tell me I'm a shithead. They tell me I'm God too, whatever, because they have access. That's a complete change, okay? If you go, I wrote about going to see the Rolling Stones, and they have bad promotional videos on their websites. Used to be nobody would know. But now there's video of everything, okay? So it's about your relationship with your audience, and my goal is not to turn the knife, but in a business full of bullshit, I'm trying to tell the truth that I see.
I mean, you grew up in kind of writing about rock and roll and the old school record business. One of the reasons we've ended up having a relationship and getting you here is that you came to Ibiza a few years ago and wrote a pretty amazing blog, which I recommend everyone go and look up. But so what? Just remind us what your first impressions were when you kind of stumbled across our world.
I'm going to go to the first thing, which is a question you didn't ask, and then I'd be glad to talk about that. Rock and roll. Rock and roll drove the culture from the late 60s to sometime in the 70s, so basically the disco sucks era, okay? Up until this electronic music thing, music does not drive the culture in America. And I'll speak primarily about America, that's my area of expertise. So we have the bullshit train talking about how powerful music is, and reality train, okay? So what is the best thing about electronic music right now? The mainstream media was clueless. I mean, the New York Times reviewed Electric Daisy in New York, which happened last weekend, but only now. The fans own it, which is exactly what happened in the rock era. Now, we can't say the future is going to play out the same way because the media is not the same thing, but that is the most exciting aspect. In terms of Ibiza, I guess it's about coming to the epicenter of the culture, which is great because in an era where you can watch video, you can go on Google Earth and you see everything, it's not until you go someplace that you can experience. Somebody asked a phenomenal, that bullshit, the guy from Pasha, I'd like to lock him in a room and find the truth. It's like, oh yeah, everything's groovy, what are you, fucking nuts? I mean, what's really going on here?
He's new in the job.
Are you really greedy? I mean, that was just, bullshit. But somebody asked the question about the VIP. So, and I'll talk small numbers. I went to see Swedish House Mafia at Pasha, and I know the people at EMI, which have been sold since, and that person doesn't work there anymore. It's got nothing to do with my story. And they give you the bottle service, okay? And then, if you want more, it's €400. Okay. Forget the fact we hear all these crazy prices. €400 is significant to most people. Okay, I went back to see Geta, and they fucked it up. I was one of the people, and it was like, on some level, a horrifying experience, but also interesting to see. The other thing was, he was across the street filming something, and people left him alone, which is very different from traditional star culture. Not that it can't change over. In addition, and if we talk about Ibiza in 2010, there are multiple clubs, there are multiple nights, and they don't care about the media bullshit. It's not a Katy Perry world. We're here having our own experience.
Well, Paris Hilton has come here. They do a bit. Do you actually like electronic music, Bob?
Let's put it, I like, and this we could argue. It's kind of like people like me, they ask me, do I like hip-hop? Do you know that Jay-Z song, Can I Get A? It's like one of the great songs of all time. The guy's talking about what a macho guy is. Then the girl starts to talk and says, get a job and do this, whatever. I love that song, and it's a great groove. So when the Pasha thing hit the New York Times, if you saw that they were changing, the guy who owns it says, it was really even worse. It was music for dummies, okay? So I think Geiger's point about curation is key. We'll all have, I'll listen to the satellite in America, and I'll hear something on the Beats channel or whatever, and I'll say, that's great. But the problem is, how do I go through all the stuff that doesn't resonate for me? So I'm not going to sit here, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say I'm an expert. I'm not going to sit here and say I hate it. There's certain tracks I like it. Okay, I got into country music, which is really 70s rock and roll, because an agent in Nashville said, these are the tracks to listen to. This is another thing. We live in an era where everything is available. Everything. Don't tell me what you like, therefore I should listen to it. Okay? I'm interested in what you like. But if you want me to listen to something, think about who I am. If you're deep into this and you want to show how cool you are and it's a remix of whatever, blah, 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 I'm too ignorant to understand that. Or I might say, doesn't resonate with me. I use, the Daft Punk track, if we want to call it, you listen to it for about 20 seconds and you want to hear it 20 more times. I'm changing subjects for a minute. That's a hit. If we go back to this century, which at this point is 13 years old, there's one definitive track, which is Gnarls Barkley Crazy. You heard it once. They could never replicate it. The guys even got a TV show after it, but they can't replicate it. That's a hit song. So when it comes to electronic music growing and percolating and permutating and being more of the scene, it's about tracks. A hit song doesn't mean it ran up the chart, went to number one. It's something that you can't, in the old days we would say, you can't get home early enough to play. Or as Ahmet Erdogan used to say, it's the song you hear on the all-night radio station in bed, and you get up, put on your clothes, and go to the all-night record store to buy. That's a hit, okay? So, are there electronic music songs I like? Absolutely. Not solely what I listen to, not solely my area of expertise. A couple of themes I want to come back to. Firstly, we might as well go into Daft Punk. How do you feel about the whole experience of the arrival of the Daft Punk album, the way it's been marketed, and also the fact that it hankers and harks back to an era that you often crave for in your blogs? We talked, I don't believe in preparation, but we did talk for a minute, because my whole life is preparation, about Daft Punk, and I was thinking about it. We're hearing the Sony bullshit train. We had an incredible marketing campaign. The real story is there's an incredible amount of goodwill for Daft Punk. You can listen to some people say when they play Coachella, whatever. It is the Daft Punk believers who are breaking this album. It's not Sony music. It's not the campaign. It's nothing. It's just these people talk about Daft Punk all the time. I heard about Daft Punk certainly before, they had the adverts on SNL, or they had them, at Coachella. But what happens, this is a modern society, when they played it, it triggered that audience. Everybody who's been a Daft Punk fan for 10 years came out of the woodwork and said, they got a new album, my fan, you got to check this out, blah, 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 blah. And that is what is selling the record.
I was curious to why you hadn't actually blogged about Daft Punk.
Oh, I did. You missed it.
I must have missed that
one.
I
mean, I wrote about Get Lucky, and I called it the song. I was the first person, but I don't know what that's worth. It was on a second weekend of Coachella, and it had come out just that afternoon legitimately, and I wrote about it. And, you can just Google my name and Get Lucky, and it'll come right up. But the point is, the repeatability. It is a good disco song from 30 years later. It's not really testing limits, but to use a terrible phrase, it's great ear candy.
You were aware of it's been quite divisive online with that there's still that element of their audience that are waiting for them to make their first album again. They talk to me about it a lot. And in the meanwhile, they're trying to make something that sounded like it was made 30, 40 years ago.
The hardest thing to do is follow up success. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. So I give them credit for being away for so long and having success. I don't know them, so now if they wanted to shortly thereafter experiment and do different things, the most important thing was to have success. If you go back, because this band has been around, these DJs, whatever you want to call them, is your core audience, you're always going to lose some members. They're there early, And then they say, I love you, turn you on, whatever. And then when they become really big, they fall aside. Oh, you're not the same anymore. Move on. So when it comes to the hatred, it's like whatever, it was Geiger, whatever said, number one in 161 countries, instantly, you just can't argue with that.
Okay, let's go back and talk about curators. A lot of discussion in the UK at the moment about the power of Shazam and the effect that that's now having on the programming of radio stations. What have you got a view on the whole Shazam? Because you've always bitched about the lack of inventiveness.
Yeah, but let's go. Let me talk about curation first. The problem with curation is it doesn't scale. There's no money in it. So you have these fucked up techies.
Telling me that?
They have all these techies who say, "I'll give you an algorithm. It'll tell you what to listen to." Okay, and you sit there like on Pandora, which is a big thing in the U.S., or Spotify Radio, and you say, "How the fuck did they come up with this stuff?" I mean, I'll use this literally happened to me. I created a station on Pandora, and this may not be your world, but Jackson Browne. I played Jackson Browne, and they suggested Journey. That's like turning gay overnight. I like women. Here's a guy. It's like, come on. So the problem with curation is it's hand to hand. I think it could be monetized, but when you're doing with something creative, the money does not come first. The money comes last. Whether it be Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose, being an Elton John fan, and being a nobody long before he hangs with Elton John. So the tech stuff is, I get it, I sell out, I disappear. Or else I go for my victory lap, you know who I am for a minute. Okay, it's very different. So we needed trusted filters, but it's like what I spoke about earlier. Your hit-to-shit ratio now has to be unbelievable. As I say, I'm talking a lot of stuff you won't know, but these radio fucks, they go on about. I'll tell a story that you will know. I'm sure you saw the same thing in the UK and Europe, where people started to bitch that there were no videos on MTV. This started to happen this decade. He's no longer head of MTV, but he's head of MTV during this time and up till 2007, this guy Tom Freston. And I'm hanging with him, and he says, we're never going to play videos. That has become an on-demand item. And literally at this point, you done with the call? Okay. It's an on-demand item. Who is going to sit by the radio and wait for their song to come on? What are you, nuts? Okay? They want to know what to listen to, but most people, as people said, they've never even experienced good radio. They don't know what John Peel was. Okay? So if you are a curator and you're recommending stuff, it has to be 80% plus. I use the example when the Beatles broke in America, top 40, which is not this way in America anymore, top 40 was everything. I had to sit through Louis Armstrong singing Hello, Dolly to get to the next Beatles track. As a result, I can sing every lick of Hello, Dolly, and I won't torture you by doing that, okay? Kids today are never going to do that. As far as Shazam goes, you'll have to tell me how it's affecting radio in the UK.
Well, the difference, I guess, it was the Pandora and Spotify models kind of base themselves on giving you more of what you like. The curious thing about Shazam is it's begun with a question. What is that? Mm-hmm. And now, radio stations are actually looking at that more and more closely in terms of a predictor in terms of where the hits are going to come from. I mean, the weird thing is some of the data I read. It was great. It's been great for like a couple of dance records in the UK, like Duke Dumont. And it's helped with disclosure for sure. But things like One Direction don't necessarily feature in it. So it's quite a weird, I just wondered if you had views.
I think radio, traditional broadcast radio, and you can even talk about the internet, has peaked, okay? And what I hate is when people say, well, they compare Spotify and Pandora. That's like comparing a car to a bicycle, okay? Oh, Spotify is everything. The fact that you're too stupid to know what to play, that's an issue, okay? As opposed to sit there, I'll use the sex analogy, whatever. Okay, I'm only going to introduce you girls one by one, or you can go to the party and check out everybody. Who's going to say, hey, I'm going to wait and have the small thing, okay? So Pandora and those radio things, I think, yeah, there's some older people and there's some press, but really it's about being able to listen to whatever you want. This bleeds into the issue of research. although I'm really into data, I really get afraid of research. The cliche will tell you, it's told you where you've been, it won't tell you where you're going. So to the fact that Shazam can be used to help break a record that was not successful before, that's important. You have to understand, in the US, the charts are in turmoil. Just 2 weeks ago, they added the streams. The charts changed overnight. First they said they're going to use this online data, whatever, YouTube stuff. Harlem Shake, the Bower track, went from 0 to #1. Okay, Side went to #1. Now, if you're following the charts, they're so schizophrenic. Most people don't care. They say, I listen to hip-hop. Tell me what the hip-hop tracks are. I don't care about that other stuff. So I think Shazam is a tool. But I will tell you, the funny thing about Shazam is whenever I use it, assuming it can find the track, I always sit there and go, that's who it is, and then I never play it. Okay? You sit there with a commercial and go, who is that? That's kind of cool. Because I have so much. Then I never go home. I don't go like Spotify. Oh, man, I got to hear that track. Never.
Talking of, let's switch to social media for a bit. And where are you at on social media? Because the funny thing about you is you are, you're still sending out a letter, effectively. You're using email. You're not a massive. I just looked on your Twitter feed before we came on, and it's pictures of fish. It's not very provocative for you. So you haven't really engaged in Facebook.
There's a lot of stuff here. Let me start with me. Okay. First and foremost, it's very hard to send a lot of email these days. Very hard to reach people because of spam filters. I love to use the F word. If I use it in an email, it doesn't reach a lot of people because it can't get through the spam filter. So it started in email. I won't drag you back 13 years ago why it went from print to email. Okay. Then everybody said go to a blog. Okay, this is really important. Let's separate artists from business people. They are not the same. Let's go a little deeper. We talked about branding and all this other stuff. The business person commissions that, okay? When Justin Bieber is toast in a matter of months, what the fuck is he going to do? He's not going to change his name and say, I'm somebody totally different. He's a footnote. Scooter Braun, he gets a new act. Okay, oh yeah, that one's done, I got a new one. So when you are the artist, and I'll just call myself the artist in this case, you're very trepidatious about change, about selling out, etc. So everybody's saying, oh, go to a blog forum, go to a blog forum. My main point was this was in an era 13 years ago when executives still printed out their own email. So I'm going to go to a blog forum? So I hesitated there. Now, this is a big thing. This is now the Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, social media ad infinitum. Okay, oh, you got to be on the latest thing? Maybe you don't. We already saw MySpace fade. So what I found was, purely by accident, if you send an email, people will read it. If you want, and my stuff is also posted in blog form, but it's an active thing. The average is Michael Rapino or Jay Marciano, head of AEG, or Doug Morris, are they going to sit there and go, I got to refresh Lefsetz's site 3 times a day, see what's going on? No, they're too busy, but they'll read an email. So that is why I've remained email-centric. As far as social media, let's start with Twitter, because you talk about, I have 50-odd thousand Twitter followers. If I tweet, because this is something I can gauge. If I tweet something, and I didn't used to, I don't like to repeat myself. Then if I wrote about it, the number of responses I got were ad infinitum. People don't know what Twitter is. Twitter is a news service. It's where you go to find out information. I was talking about this just last night. People start on Twitter, certainly if you go back to when I started, like 2009, and then they would say, oh, I ate pizza, I hung with Joe, etc. They're tweeting 20 times a day. And then with somewhere between 2 months and 9 months, they're to 0. And then they restart as something else. So if you're tweeting, either you have to be fascinating, okay, or you have to say, I'm giving information, I'm sending it in the ether, and almost nobody is reading it. So that's why, in my particular case, I got a few thousand tweets, but you only have 24 hours in a day. I'm not going to sit there and tweet ad infinitum. The other thing is, I have my core audience. I'm servicing them. Don't look for new people. Don't. Forget it. If you service your core audience, they'll get you new people. We were talking about this last night, Lady Gaga, okay? She went around the world making sure everybody knew who she was, and she took about 40 or 50% out of her act. What I mean by that is, by the time she's back, she's already a 2-year-old act. Play to the core. If you're real, I have never done any advertising, any hype whatsoever. My base constantly goes up, okay? And it's because the people who read me, they're selling it, and they have a personal relationship with me. I could, listen, I have friends, I could hire myself, get on all the TV networks, and get in all the publications, then all these people would abandon me. Oh, Lefsetz doesn't need me anymore. He's too big for me, okay? So when it comes to how, your picture on social media, that's one thing. The next thing, and I was also talking about this last night, is what is the definition of a star, okay? I don't buy that recorded music, it's all about piracy and no one will want recorded music anymore or whatever. But the one thing that can't be replicated is experiences. That's why we have all this festival stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So, as an artist, maybe an artist is someone who tweets. Because I hear from all the people, oh, I'm a musician, I haven't got time for that. Maybe the modern star is someone who does everything. If you look at Deadmau5, whatever, I think his social media has driven, I find in many cases his social media better than his music, okay? So, that is
that's going to get tweeted everywhere.
Okay, that has helped his career. So, if you are trying to make it today, the first thing you have to know is you're running into the wilderness. No one cares about you, and the only way you can get noticed is if you are really good. You want to be everywhere, and you want to respond to heat. If your Twitter followers are not going up, if your Facebook friends are not going up, you got to change your act. That means no one's interested. I'll let you decide whether you're good or bad, but no one's interested. So the social media thing, these companies are run by fucks who want to make money. They don't care about you. Twitter doesn't care about you. Okay? Nor does Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg. They don't care about music. They care about money. So how can you use this to your advantage? Real bigwigs might want to leverage what they have to try to get some money or some relation. I'll give you an example. Irving Azoff again. Let's go back 10 years. Steve Jobs wants the Eagles. Up his butt unbelievably. Okay? I buy a computer. I got a problem with it. I call Irving. Get a hold of Steve. Okay? And he says, can't get him on the phone since I made the Eagles deal. That's the way it works. Certainly up until the last 6 months, that was the most powerful person in the music business.
You touched on, stay on social media for 1 minute. What do you think about, because it hasn't got mentioned much here so far, is Facebook, interestingly enough. I get advised by my people that if I want to do well on Facebook, not to touch it, which I think is kind of weird. So
No. So you're saying by being away, it's going to help you?
No. The fact that it's running Facebook now on a commercial level is like a science. It's like when to do it, what to put on,
Facebook
how big your photo
is. Facebook is passé. Okay, Facebook was whatever happened to Susie who sat next to me in science. Okay, and then for about 2 years, everybody ran around and said, "Oh, I want to find everybody that I knew." And what we've now is we have Facebook where people who are posting ad infinitum, and everybody else is not posting at all and checking in occasionally. In addition, Facebook needs to make money. So they changed the thing where you can't reach all your friends they want to charge you to reach your friends. That's antithetical to the ethos of the internet. Okay? So, do you have to be everywhere? What do I know? First and foremost, I still believe you want to have a website. Or a Wikipedia page. Not everybody can get on Wikipedia, but assuming you have some traction, because that's the first hit that comes up when you Google. So your number one thing, and this is what the social media is all about, is if someone is suddenly interested, they should be able to dig down a rabbit hole for hours finding out about you. It's just as important. The music is the key element. But once they say, I heard about you, I want to go to your Wikipedia page. I want to go to your website. I might even go to see what you've tweeted previously, okay? So that is really the important thing. The ongoing relationship with Facebook has been If you check the statistics, the younger people were the last to Twitter, but they're abandoning Facebook for Twitter. So what I'm saying is really amorphous. First and foremost, there's only 24 hours in a day. If you're watching TV and you're relaxing, you're probably never going to be successful. It's a lot. I haven't watched any Homeland. They say it's the best show on TV. I don't have time, okay? Because it's so hard to be recognized at this particular point in time. Conversely, you need things to inspire you. So where do you want to dedicate your time? A certain amount is making music. A certain amount of time is these other things. What you want to do is you want to be where you are today, and it has to be fun. Otherwise, it's drudgery. If you don't want to tweet because it's drudgery, stop. But don't tweet because you tell me, oh, I have nothing to say. If you have nothing to say, go lock yourself up in a room, forget it. Everybody's got something to say. So if I were today, I would have a presence on Facebook. I don't think it's necessary to work it. This is different once you become a superstar. Then it's about managing it, and you have all these people. But when you're in the middle below, you want to be somewhere where your fan base is, and you want to do it on a regular basis. You want to be somewhere on a regular basis where people can find out about you. Of course, you can do the opposite like Daft Punk, but that's very hard to do today.
When you were up and coming and kind of, I think you lost your job, and then you started writing your newsletter to kind of almost get noticed by the record business again, I believe. But one of your big causes at the beginning was Napster. Where do you think we're at now with file sharing and streaming, and Daft Punk after locking up the album and not letting anyone have it, eventually just put the whole thing up on iTunes.
Okay,
many people I know the next day had CDs burnt in their car with all the tracks separated, me included.
And really old people, if they're burning CDs. Yeah. I mean, most of the new...
That's true.
Someone called me, I wrote about this, they emailed me, said, I need to buy a new computer. I said, I'm the only person I know who goes on the road with a computer. Everybody goes on the road with an iPad. Okay? So things continue to evolve. When you talk about Napster and file sharing, it's over. Streaming won. Forget it. If you can sell CDs and you can sell files, be my guest. What I don't understand with files, why they have the going out of business sale. I would drop file sales to 50 cents and 10 cents and then give up. Okay? Because everything is free on YouTube. This is one of the Spotify problems, because they don't have certain things. It's on YouTube. Okay? YouTube streams more tracks than anybody ever listens to. Okay? But you're talking about sales. This is a record company metric. The number one thing, since there's so many things involved, the number one thing you want to do is available. We used to have this debate. Should I charge? Should I give it away for free? Who gives a fuck? Just make it available. Okay? So, streaming won. How it's monetized and how people pay for streaming, we're still working out. The only thing I will say is that only one service wins. There's one iTunes. At this point in time, Amazon has close to 20% of the download market, but Apple's still way in the 60s. There's one Google. Bing is got like 12%, and they pay Yahoo to be their search engine. Yahoo would like to get out of that, and they've lost billions. There will be one music service because all your friends are there. In Europe and UK, Deezer's got some traction. Spotify, they were late, and they may be eclipsed by Beats, Daisy. That's another rabbit hole I'll go down in if you choose.
A lot of people are still going to buy the Daft Punk album this week, though, after them effectively giving it away by streaming it.
Okay, we're in a transitional phase. Let me ask you, in 10 years from now, do you think you'll be able to buy a CD drive?
Well, you can't now, no, barely.
Okay.
So no.
Can you buy a cassette player? No. So the fact there are legacy people who buy, which bleeds into something else. Yes, people want tangible stuff. The best reason to have a CD is if you play a live gig, you can sign it and sell it.
I don't mean a CD, but I just mean downloading the iTunes version for whatever it costs.
We saw this in DVDs, okay? And this is how fucked up the music business is. We're behind the movie business. I mean, they're really out to lunch, okay? So, and the other thing I love is no one's ever going to rent music. So what do we know? Video cassettes were very expensive. You rented them. Then they made them cheap. You bought them. Then DVDs came in, and they were really cheap. You bought them. Then we went to Netflix, and you rented them. Then we went to Netflix streaming. So what we know is the public, don't listen to the public. This is what research. You can lead them to the most convenient thing. So if we look at it, people, the big thing in America, and I'm sure it's big here, is the marathon weekend. Where all of a sudden you say, I'm going to watch every season of Boardwalk Empire. I'm going to watch every season of Breaking Bad. And they have found when they're on Netflix streaming, it then drives people to the new season. If you look at DVD sales, they're like nothing. Okay? So this is where it's going. Do the economics change? Absolutely. But this is where the trend is.
Yeah, I actually think the movie industry or the TV industry got it kind of right. It feels like because it's a joy not to have to own the VHS tape or the DVD that gets scratched. So the fact that you can actually Netflix, iTunes even, where you just rent it.
But why isn't that good in music?
Well, I don't know. I think people still are buying.
It's
a habit.
I take that out of your routine. It's going to make you look old.
Right.
Okay. It's like. I don't know, if anybody here was a dedicated vinyl buyer, and don't listen to those crazy people talking about vinyl coming back. It's done. It's over. 1% of the market. I used to be famous at record stores for returning records. Because the return rate, there was no such thing as a perfect record, and you had to return at least 10 to 20% because they would either skip or they had too much surface noise. When we went to see, the fact that you have a CD or an MP3 that doesn't skip and has no surface noise, that's unbelievable. Okay? So when you go to these new things, people say, oh, I want to have access. I mean, people are so stupid. I go to this label. If you have your phone and you have a Spotify subscription, thousands of tracks live on there. You don't need any streaming ability. So as a result, the public doesn't know, but this is where they'll go. They just want to have access. So if they have access, if you look at the cloud, do you remember when you used to have when was the last time somebody came to your house and said, let's hard drive swap? I'll bring my MP3s. No one says that anymore. Okay, when was the last time, you had something on your DVR and said, let me burn it to DVD? Not happening.
Bob, it's been very entertaining. I think I'm just conscious of time because we were running a little bit late.
We got plenty of time because no one's going. I'm the last guy. So I don't want to be like that. So,
I was only saying because I want to invite these people to now take part in the
Some
discussion.
questions? I want to do the first question, though, Bob. 5 years ago, we debated at...
Yeah, it's CMW.
No, at Roadrunner.
Okay, whatever.
Up in the Catskills. At the time, you said no one will rent music. It's all about buying. What changed?
Let me be clear. If we went back to the videotape, maybe that's exactly what I said. I'm talking about an issue of timing. You don't want to be too early. Okay, whether it be Rhapsody that's being eclipsed by these new services. At the time, there was not enough streaming info. Listen, I have a phone with 4G service that streams really fast. Forget music. I'm just talking about data.
Right.
So the underpinnings changed, making it time for streaming. So if you go back, Jim Griffin, 1999, 2000, talking about streaming, there wasn't enough. There might have been enough pipe, but people weren't paying to access that pipe. So it couldn't win then. So if I said that, I was wrong, but that's the way I remember it in my brain.
No, but so what changed? I didn't say you were wrong. I'm saying what changed.
You're
saying infrastructure
to me,
changed.
As I say, we used to, Ted, you were here too. We would come to these conferences, and from the year 1999 or 2000 to 2005, it was always about piracy. Moved on. So the point is, there are people still talking about piracy, but the game changes, or the underpinnings change, and the game changes as a result.
Okay. First question, who? Hand, who's got a question?
Back there.
Back there. I get to run.
Hi, Sanger Robinson.
A little louder, please.
Sanger Robinson. How do you monetize your online efforts in the newsletter? It doesn't appear that you have any advertising or sponsors in the email or on your blog.
Okay, obviously I'm not going to open up my bank account and show it to you, but...
Oh, come on.
Unlike a lot of people, I'm willing to wait, okay? So in my particular case, generally speaking, I make money by doing two things. By licensing what I've already written and by appearing live in certain environments. I just made a deal with Variety to be in their magazine every week if you pick up Variety. So that's how I do it. Am I making $1 billion? No.
Hi, Bob. It's Sam Shamtop here. Very entertaining talk. Just a quick question. You said that there's going to be one service that wins out. And I sort of believe the theory. It makes a lot of sense. But actually, is there a reason to believe that's true? iTunes launched 10 years ago. Spotify a couple of years ago in the States, and it's serious competition.
No.
And there's Deezer, and there's Beatport, and there's Amazon MP3, and there's a lot of theory and proof that actually it's horses for courses.
Well, I mean, I'll let you come back at me after I'm done here, but that's apples and oranges. Spotify is streaming, iTunes is sale. That's the difference between Netflix and over-the-air television. Okay, so within a sphere, iTunes won. Okay, let's start with the iPod. Now, granted, it was tied to iTunes. There was the Zune. There were other competitors, iRiver. None of them ever had any serious traction. Okay, now this is the big problem facing Apple. When Apple's assuming they're going to a streaming model, and there's not evidence they are. Will they be too late? Because they're going to lose critical. Let me go really deep here. We'll go to the Android iPhone comparison. The iPhone has the lion's share of profits in the mobile handset. It's staggering how much money is made on iPhone. Okay? Let's talk as a practical matter. In the third world and somewhat in the second world, Android has a huge penetration as a result of its inexpensiveness. Okay? So, which model do you want? What we know is it flips at some point. If everybody's on the iPhone, then you can sell them the streaming service, okay? Suddenly, if everybody's on something else, then you have to bring them back to your service. You have to. This is how Apple succeeded once. I don't think they can do it again.
So how does the Google Play announcement play into this last week? So
Okay,
now you have an Android music service.
Let me just try to finish answering this guy's question. Okay, so the point is, Apple may move into streaming. Okay, but at this point in time, Apple owns downloads, Amazon owns retailing, Google owns search. So I believe there will be one streaming victor, just because we've learned, unlike brick and mortar, everything is right next door to each other. At a record store, you'd say, I want to drive extra 20 minutes to save 50 cents. Probably not, okay? But you can click on your computer and everything's right there. So we always have the music business saying, we want to establish competitors. Doesn't work that way online. So, Ted, your question again?
So what the Google Play service last week, announcing an Android phone-based
You know what
service.
it is? It's like somebody built a stadium. Suddenly the game is real. Once Google gets in, okay, we have Jimmy Iovine who did a phenomenal job with Beats. We have Spotify. We have Rhapsody. We have Rdio. This means they're open for business here. Now they're fighting who's going to win. And I think that the fact that Apple let Google get in, especially because Google has Android, prior to getting in was a gargantuan mistake.
Agree. Next question.
The lady,
One down front.
lady up here.
I think one of the things we haven't really touched on today in terms of social media in the electronic music space is the fact that the live performance has been intrinsic to the success of electronic music. And by that, the streaming of live concerts and festivals, and Ultra had, I think, a record number of views after its festival. What do you think about that? Because that is so different from other genres in music.
How's it different? How's it different from other genres?
It's different because the live component of electronic music is what fans love, what fans goes for, which has basically led to the globalization of the music festival phenomenon. And all those people who go to the festivals will then want to see that festival again online, or if they haven't been to the festival, they want to watch it online straight away.
That's really marketing. If you check any of these streams, live streams, forget the after streams, the percent, a lot of people in that business who charged, this is the Allman Brothers, they actually own their own fish. It's a very small business because the experience is radically different. When you have the after movie, I have watched after movies of things I'm never going to go to because I want to see how they're put together. They're trying to titillate. They got the girls going like this and the water on their tits and all this other stuff, and they have all the production. Okay, a lot.
And girls in short skirts, which you write about.
Exactly, or bikinis is that bad. This will drive people to go to the show. I don't believe it's a business unto itself. Now, yes, electronic music is based on live. That's one of the magic. The time has finally come. If you talk to the rock acts, that's how they're making their money, by playing live. It's a medium that's perfect for today. It's also about the experience. If you want to go see a traditional recorded music act, what do we know? First and foremost, you can't get a ticket. Okay? Then it's all sold out, and we all know how the game is. Literally, they have all the pre-sales, the fan clubs, the scalpers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So literally go on sale, maybe a 20th of the tickets go on sale. Then you overpay to be treated badly and to sit there and look like this. Whereas if you go to the Mojave tent at Coachella, you're bumping into all kinds of crazy people. Now, this begs the question of whether the music is primary, but it's about an experience. And this is just like curation trying to be done by algorithms. Human experience is something that will never be replicated online. This goes to another thing, which is very important. First, short attention span. Kids today have unbelievable attention spans. You ever see them play World of Warcraft or Halo? Every 3 months, somebody drops dead because they didn't sleep because they were playing a video game. Literally. They just have incredible shit detectors. They don't want to listen to your music, okay? But they'll listen to the music they like ad infinitum, okay? So the other thing is they say music. Oh, music, a lot of other things competing for the dollar. That's like talking about sex. Don't want to have sex. I got video games. I don't know anybody say. I've never heard that. Oh yeah, I didn't get laid. I wanted to go to the movies. It's like, no. Okay? Music is unbelievably powerful. If you have something great, people will do it. The experience cannot be replicated of going to the act. The experience of walking out the hotel, okay, right there, you could charge for that. Okay, you're here right now, but I'm in Ibiza. It's sunny out. Everybody's by the pool. You could show me video all day long. It's not like actually being here.
I think where those things have been very successful is that, it's particularly with Ultra and to a certain extent with Tomorrowland's and Sensation did it as well, is they're almost guaranteeing that the next time that event happens, they sell out even faster before the bill's announced. So that's where those streams have been really good.
If there's not another question,
Any
we
more
should
questions?
head to the cocktails. Any other questions? I didn't see another hand go up before.
Go on. Kaz has got one at the back there. Go on.
All the way back there, of course. You get the last word.
Hey, mate. Just quickly, out of everyone you talk about, who gets it the most? Out of all these electronic acts that you look at and you analyze, and who gets it the most? Who do you think's the most?
There's a lot of stuff there. I mean, I can't pull up anything out of my back pocket that you don't know. The most important thing is, you're talking about Calvin Harris, you talk about Guetta. They have crossed over in traditional music spheres, okay? One of the main complaints about, like the guy from Pasha, main complaints about electronic music is degree of repeatability, listenability, etc. Once you create a hit song, all of a sudden you're in hyperspace. So I look at those guys and other people who have created, I hate to use the word pop because it has a connotation of evanescence, here today, gone tomorrow, okay? But someone who creates something that's repeatability, like Get Lucky, whatever, that's doing it right. And also, so when I think about doing it right, first and foremost is the music. If you create, I don't care what anybody says, and people argue with me all day long, you create phenomenal music, you can break it home doing none of this stuff. Because if you're that good, your fans will spread the word. There's an act out of Canada called The Weeknd, hip-hop act. The guy did nothing other than give his music away for free. Nothing, didn't tweet, nothing. And it became a phenomenon, okay? Sold out. He only played occasionally. When he played, you could not get a ticket. So I think that, yes, Guetta's doing it well, Skrillex is doing it well, and these other people are doing well. But the question becomes, are they Dane Cook? People here may not know who Dane Cook is. Dane Cook is a terrible comedian in the U.S., and He became successful because he utilized MySpace and he responded to absolutely everybody. But he's a shitty comedian. Okay? So, yes, you can use all the, what I'm worried about, and I like some of the, like people like Dead Mouse and Skrillex, okay? They ascended so fast. The history of recorded music is when you're that fast, you fall down that fast. There are exceptions. Elton John, okay? But almost everybody, although he paid a lot of dues before anybody knew who he was, okay? And certainly Sonny Skrillex, you know, he paid a lot of dues. But these things that happen so fast, they skip the step of the hardcore, they skip finding out who they are, and does it ultimately kill it? Or if you reach too far, like Avicii. So despite all these things being rolled up and owned by somebody, the artist is still king, the creator is still king, and we always want to be wowed. So the reverse might be the arms race of production. The next person, it may be no production. It's about doing it differently and doing it great. That's the wrap up.
Good answer. All right, thank you, Bob.
Right.